Nobody liked this, but there was nothing they could do. It was blatantly an attempt to expand the Tauresi Empire into the resource-rich Sol system and subjugate a powerful Death World race before they could defend themselves. The humans had been nothing but peaceful and friendly since they ascended to the Galactic Council. No one wanted this, but the Tauresi had played this perfectly. When other races tried to object, saying it was against everything the Council stood for, the Tauresi dismissed the objections. The spirit of the law isn't our problem. The letter, if the law is what's important, will this Council abandon the system of law and order they have spent millennia building and maintaining? The Tauresi had argued that the humans were a clear threat to them, and being on their border, they were legally allowed to preemptively defend themselves. Although the humans were Deathworlders and known for being brilliant military tacticians and soldiers, this alone wasn't enough though, especially considering their conduct since first contact. Then, their confidential records were hacked and released. Everyone knew it was the Tauresi, but no one could prove it. These records documented and proved many of the dark rumors about how humans had treated each other before first contact. How their spies and intelligence agencies had destabilized rival nations to weaken them when a direct attack wasn't possible. This, along with the fact the humans had hidden these records, had been the final piece the Tauresi needed to legalize their plan. Although the humans were the first Deathworlders to reach the stars, any individual capable of fighting multiple members of any race at the same time and winning. Even though they were the premier military tacticians among the galaxy, they didn't stand a chance against the Tauresi in a war, and even the humans knew it. The humans number less than 20 billion and had only joined the wider galactic community 10 years ago. The Tauresi numbered in the tens of trillions and were much more technologically advanced than the humans, having been among the stars for 1,000 years. The declaration of war was approved as legal. The Arossa representative stood and requested to bring a new matter to the council. The speaker approved this move to new business. The Arossa were the most technologically advanced race in the galaxy, once having the most prosperous empire in the Milky Way, until they had committed a great crime and had their empire torn apart by the combined might of the Galactic Council. The humans were outraged. You've just doomed our people to death and subjugation, and you just move on to the next point of business like nothing has happened. The speaker sympathized. I appreciate how terrible this must be for your people, but the matter is clearly resolved under law, and we have 450 quadrillion beings we're responsible for. We cannot stop the functioning of the Council because of less than 20 billion, I'm sorry. The Arossa ambassador waited patiently for the uproar to die down. They hated the Tauresi and liked the humans. They didn't want them to be punished for interrupting them, so didn't complain to the speaker. Once the chamber was silent, they began. As you all know, several decades ago a shameful dark secret of our people was uncovered. Our leaders had created a secret unit to abduct and experiment on other races, so we could further our scientific knowledge and tighten our grip on power in the galaxy. As part of our deserved punishment for those transgressions, we were ordered to provide compensation to the races affected. I am here today to unfortunately heap further shame on my people. There is a race we have not yet put things right for, the humans. The Tauresi saw this for what it was, a way to exploit the law, to strike back at them by strengthening the humans before their invasion. This was because the Tauresi pushed for such harsh punishments for the Arossa's crimes, and it was their turn to be outraged. As they started shouting the objections, the Speaker of the Council interjected again. You know the rules of this chamber. You don't interrupt another race while they are presenting new business. You will get your chance to ask questions and raise objections afterwards. The Arossa continued as the humans sensed there may be hope after all. I have submitted to the Council proof from our own files of abductions and experiments on these poor victims of our terrible crimes. Unfortunately, due to the previous compensation we have paid out to, we cannot offer financial compensation or any physical resources without leaving our people unable to survive themselves, so we cannot offer either. The humans saw their last hope fade. The Arosa continued. We do, however, have a possible alternate solution. Under council law, if someone is unable to meet a legally determined compensation, they can offer other legal means of compensation if the victims accept the payment. We are willing to offer the humans half of our remaining ships and weapons, plus a manufacturing facility. The Tauresi, realizing that armed with Arosa technology, the humans would be more than able to repel them, are once again outraged. You can't do that. Galactic law clearly states you cannot provide weapons technology to a race that doesn't have access to that technology themselves. This is a blatant attempt to interfere in our legal conflict with the humans. The speaker stopped the Tauresi again. I have told you once already, do not interrupt a fellow member before they have finished speaking. The Arosa started to remove their helmet, shocking the entire chamber. None in living memory had seen their faces. As their helmet was removed, it revealed their large, bulbous heads with grey skin and large eyes. The humans gasp, "Greys are real?" The Arosa continued to address the now shocked and silent chamber. To address the Tauresi point, we would be usually unable to offer such payment. However, as you are aware, several of our kind scrubbed a lot of records from our illegal activities in an attempt to avoid recriminations once the Council's investigation began. Upon review of the humans' own history, we have found further proof of our actions against these people. Please see the attached files regarding something the humans call the New Roswell incident. It clearly shows that one of our ships crashed on their planet and was recovered by the humans. Therefore, as they have access to this technology already, we aren't breaking any law. The Tauresi interrupted again, now seething with rage. Even the humans' own records show that isn't true. These records, as the Arosa call them, are conspiracy theories spread by nut jobs and confirmed as such by their own records. There is no proof to back up the Arosa's ludicrous claims. This is truly just a desperate attempt to illegally influence a legal war, as revenge against us for our role in making sure they were suitably punished for their vile crimes. Once again, the speaker made herself heard again, now with a very annoyed tone in her voice. If you interrupt before a fellow council member has finished their allotted time again, I will have you found in contempt of the council and removed from this chamber. The Arosa, completely unflustered, continued once more. Thank you, Speaker. As you know, the human governments at the time were well known for underhanded and secretive programs. It is in fact part of the justification for the Tauresi's declaration of war. I believe the direct quote is, "Further proof the humans are a justifiable threat to our sovereignty is demonstrated by their previous disruption of rival governments on their own homeworld. Their own records provide proof that they falsified records about these incidents to avoid recrimination, show that their current claims that they don't do that anymore can't be taken at face value. Even though the Council have found no proof they are planning such an act at this time. The nation our ship crashed in was one of the main perpetrators of these acts against rival nations. The same acts Tauresi are using as justification for their invasion, so by their own admission those records cannot be entirely taken as fact. Although this isn't proof enough on its own, around this time one of our ships went missing in that area. One of our light frigates, not a large ship, but embarrassingly one of our more advanced ones. I would like to point out, before the Tauresi claim we have falsified this report, the record of this loss was logged with the Council at the time and is a verified, genuine record that has been in the Council database ever since. Therefore, it is legally reasonable to assume the humans have access to this technology. Therefore, our offer is within Council rules. I will now accept any questions. The seething Tauresi were unsurprisingly the first to speak. If they have this technology, why don't they use it, as it's so clearly vastly superior to what they are currently using? The Tauresi were certain this massive hole in the Arosa's argument would end the matter. They were not happy at the smug look on the Arosa face as they began to answer. The regulations are very clear. They must have access to the technology through legal means. It doesn't say they have to understand or be able to reproduce it. As the ship crashed there due to our illegal activity, not the humans, they are legally entitled to the salvage, and as evidenced by the records that one of our people was recovered alive from the crash, the ship was functional when they retrieved it. The Tauresi lost its temper and started shouting at the Arosa. You know full well that's not what the regulations mean. It was created to allow the Pagure to receive repairs to technology. They lost the ability to rebuild themselves after a supernova destroyed their homeworld and central scientific database. The Arosa smiled as she replied, "As you pointed out earlier, the spirit of the law isn't our problem. The letter of the law is what matters. So we ask the humans, although our offer of compensation is below the Council's set value of compensation, will you accept our humble offer to settle our debt to your people?" The human representative, Ambassador Toure, was shocked, and it took a few stuttered attempts to get out her reply. Ambassador Toure took a breath and regained her composure. "We do thank you for your attempts to correct this wrong against our people. Upon delivery of the offered compensation, we will consider your debt to our people paid, and would like to say..." The Tauresi erupted in anger and started shouting threats and abuse. The speaker had had enough and had the Tauresi representative dragged from the chamber. With their opposition gone, and their behavior having angered the other races, the Arosa's proposal was accepted by the Council. Immediately after the Council session, Toure approached the Arosa ambassador. "Thank you. You have saved our entire species. We're so lucky you had that record of what really happened. It was so long ago, we genuinely believed it was a conspiracy theory. All our records show it was an experimental military plane that crashed that was covered up." It was. Our ship was vaporized when its engine malfunctioned due to an illegal modification that had been made, but the records were falsified to avoid punishment. I'm the only person left alive, apart from you now, who knows the truth about what happened. Why take the risk of lying to the Council when you're already in such a weakened state yourself to help us? What I said isn't entirely untrue. We do legally owe you compensation. We did, I am ashamed to admit, abduct one of your people to experiment on. When they were on that ship, an incident occurred. One of our kind, an ambitious piece of shit called Trill, released your fellow human from their imprisonment. Ambassador Tour tried to carefully word her reply. At the risk of angering someone who may have just saved our people, if I may be blunt, he doesn't sound like a piece of shit to me if he was freeing our people from illegal and non-consensual experimentation. He didn't do it for your people or for some moral objection. In fact, it was his idea to abduct one of you. The reason he did it was because he was related to the leader of science team who were running the experiments, who was a very wealthy person in our society. He intended to disgrace the leader so they would forfeit all their belongings and assets. It would have worked if not for the second part of his plan. Trill was only second in line for inheritance of the assets. The leader's infant daughter was first in line. During the confusion of trying to recapture the enraged Deathworlder, he would kill the infant, knowing it would be blamed on the human's rampage. As him and the guards he paid off went to complete his plan, the human had almost reached the escape pod, which was near the leader's quarters for obvious reasons. The humans saw what was about to happen and attacked Trill and the guards. They could have escaped, but stopped to help an infant they didn't know, of a race that had kidnapped and experimented on them. They saved its life, but succumbed to their wounds, suffered in the fight, and died not long after. One of your people sacrificed their life to save an infant of a race that had inflicted great pain upon them, an infant who also happens to be my granddaughter. The fact that repaying that debt fucked over the Torresi is what you humans would call the icing on the cake.